Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be diving deep into a topic that I think hits home for a lot of us.
Mhm.
It's about how relationships are impacted when illness or disability enters the picture.
Yeah.
Some of you send in some really great material from the Strength and Love podcast.
Oh, very cool.
And I love how they take such a practical and real approach. You know what I mean?
Totally. Like, it's not all doom and gloom,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. So get ready because today we're going to be talking about some concrete strategies for navigating these situations,
Excellent.
like communication, adapting to a new normal, and even keeping that spark of intimacy alive.
You know what I really appreciate about Strength and Love?
Yeah.
Is how they bring in those real stories from people who are actually living through this.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
It's like, yeah, we can talk about the medical stuff and, the practical side of caregiving,
Yeah.
but it's the emotional impact on the relationship that's often overlooked.
Totally. And they actually brought in this medical social worker, Dr. J. She had some seriously insightful advice about the power of just open and honest communication.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
It's like you think communication would be a given, right?
You would think, right?
Especially in the close relationship.
Exactly.
But she was saying it's not just about talking.
Okay.
It's about creating that safe space where both people can voice their fears, their anxieties,
Yeah. Their frustrations.
their sadness about how things have changed.
It's almost like you have to acknowledge a sense of grief in a way, right?
That's a good way to put it.
Like for the relationship as it was before.
Right.
And then finding a way to build something new and strong that works for both of you.
And one of the Strength and Love listeners was sharing this story about how
Yeah.
they started having these regular check-ins with their partner, like dedicated time just to talk about how they were feeling and what they needed from each other.
And how did that work for them?
It sounds so simple,
Yeah.
but they said it made a huge difference.
I bet. Just having that structured time to connect.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when life is just completely chaotic.
And I think that's a takeaway we can all apply,
Oh, for sure.
even if we're not facing a major health challenge right now.
Absolutely.
But when we are talking about illness or disability, impacting a relationship, there are also those practical things to think about.
Yeah. It's like your whole world can get flipped upside down.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dr. Jane had this great suggestion.
What's that?
She said to really take a hard look at your daily routines and responsibilities.
Oh, interesting.
Like who does what?
Okay.
How do things get done?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you can start to see where adjustments need to be made.
Makes sense. So it's not just about dividing up the chores,
Right.
although that can be a big part of it.
Oh, for sure.
She was talking about exploring things like assistive devices
Yeah.
or finding resources in the community that can help make life a little easier.
Totally. And, one of the listeners in the Strength and Love episode mentioned how they actually made a point of educating themselves about their partner's condition.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And they said that having that understanding and empathy made them a way better support system.
Yeah, like you're both on the same team learning about the opponent together.
Exactly. And speaking of teamwork, that brings us to another point Dr. Jane made.
Yeah.
It's all about sharing the load, especially when it comes to caregiving.
That's so important because let's face it, caregiver burnout is real.
Oh, it's definitely real. It's like
Yeah.
you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. So she was emphasizing that those caregiving responsibilities need to be shared, not dumped entirely on one person.
Right.
So she suggested looking at ways to involve family or friends.
Yeah.
Maybe even considering professional caregivers if that's possible.
Just that's an option. Yeah.
It's about building that support network.
And one of the examples from Strength and Love that really stuck with me was this couple who, even with all the challenges they were facing, they still made it a point to build fun into their routine.
I love that.
Like it wasn't just all about doctor's appointments and medications.
Yeah.
They still had those date nights at home. They did activities they enjoyed together.
It's so important to remember that. We're talking about a relationship,
Right.
not just a patient-caregiver dynamic.
Yeah.
So maintaining that emotional connection and that intimacy takes effort, but it's so worth it.
It's about adapting and finding new ways to connect and, keep that spark alive.
Exactly.
And that brings us to something I think a lot of people struggle with.
What's that?
How do you even begin to define intimacy when illness or disability is part of the equation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something the Strength and Love hosts talked about too.
Did they have any insights?
Yeah, it can be tricky
Oh, for sure.
because the way intimacy looks and feels might have to change.
Yeah,
And that can be a big adjustment for people.
totally. They made a good point, though,
What's that?
that even small gestures can go a long way,
Oh, yeah.
Like just making time for each other.
even if it's just for a few minutes,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like sharing a laugh or watching a movie together.
Cuddling on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. Just those little moments of connection.
Those are important.
Yeah, they remind you why you're in this relationship in the first place.
It's about finding that new normal together.
Mm-hmm.
It might not look like what you expected,
Right,
but it can still be incredibly fulfilling.
exactly. But let's be honest, it can also be incredibly challenging. So for anyone listening who's going through this right now,
Yeah.
trying to navigate these waters, I just want to acknowledge how difficult it can be.
There's a lot to process.
There really is.
It can feel overwhelming.
Right, absolutely. But what I found so powerful about those stories on Strength and Love
Yeah.
is that they offer hope. Relationships can not only survive these challenges, they
Right.
can thrive.
And it's so reassuring to hear how other people have made it work.
And it's not about pretending everything's fine.
Or minimizing the difficulties. It's about acknowledging the challenges,
Yeah.
communicating openly, and working together to find solutions that work for both of you.
It's where that adaptability comes in, right?
Exactly.
You got to be willing to let go of old expectations
Yeah.
and embrace this new chapter.
And be patient with yourself and your partner.
Yeah.
There can be good days and bad days.
Oh, for sure.
Times when you feel frustrated, exhausted,
Totally.
maybe even resentful.
Yeah.
It's all part of the process.
It's like we were saying earlier, right? Like grieving the old relationship and building a new one, that takes time.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Such a good point.
Reach out for support from friends, family, professionals. There are resources out there to help.
You know, one thing that struck me about all of this is how much these strategies apply beyond just romantic relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Think about friendships, family relationships, anytime someone is facing a challenge.
Right.
Whether it's illness or job loss or
Grief. It could be anything.
these same principles can help us show up for each other with more empathy and understanding.
It's about recognizing that relationships require constant care and attention,
Yeah.
especially when life throws those curveballs.
And that leads to a really important question.
Okay.
What does it look like to care for ourselves while also being there for others?
Because we can't pour from an empty cup, we have to find that balance between self-care and caregiving.
Exactly. And as we continue our discussion, I want you all to think about how you can apply these principles, not only to your relationships, but to your own well-being as well.
That's such a great point. It's like a ripple effect, right?
Yeah,
By taking care of ourselves, we're better equipped to take care of others.
exactly. And by nurturing our relationships, we create that web of support that can help us through the tough times.
For sure.
But we're just scratching the surface here. Let's dive even deeper after a quick break.
Sounds good. So we're back, and, before the break, we were talking about that big question. How do we care for ourselves when we're also caring for someone else?
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like you have to put your own needs aside when your partner is going through something difficult.
It's so true. Especially for those of us who identify as caregivers.
Yeah.
We put so much pressure on ourselves to be strong, to be there for everyone else,
Right.
that we forget to check in with, our own well-being.
Our own needs. Yeah, and I think that's where boundaries come in.
Boundaries, yeah.
Because it can feel selfish
Right.
to set boundaries, especially in these situations.
Totally.
But it's really about protecting your own energy so that you can actually show up for your partner
Exactly.
in a healthy way.
And setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to things.
Okay.
It's about being honest with yourself, about your own limitations, what you need,
Yeah.
and being able to communicate that to your partner.
Being open about it.
Yeah. Saying like, hey, I love you. I want to be there for you,
Right.
but I also need to take some time for myself.
To recharge. To take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that might look different for everyone.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's taking an hour a day to go for a walk.
Read a book. Meditate.
Yeah. Have some quiet time.
Mm.
Schedule a massage.
Therapy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that helps you recharge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that self-care isn't a luxury.
Yeah.
It's a necessity.
It's essential.
Because when we're depleted, when we're running on empty,
Mm-hmm.
we can't be truly present for our loved ones.
We can't give what we don't have, right?
Exactly.
And that goes back to that open communication piece.
Yeah.
Being honest with your partner about what you need and working together to find solutions.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because it's a perfect example of how all of these things are interconnected.
Yeah.
Open communication, adapting to change,
Sharing the load.
Finding that balance.
Exactly. It's all about nurturing the relationship.
Even amidst the challenges.
Yeah. And one of the hosts on Strength and Love made this point.
That sometimes the best thing you can do for your partner is to encourage them to advocate for themselves.
Oh, that's a good point.
Especially when it comes to things like medical care or navigating the complexities of a disability.
Yeah, because it's so tempting to just want to take care of everything.
It is.
As the partner.
Right. To shield them from the stress.
Protect them.
But in the long run, empowering them to have a voice.
Yeah, to make their own choices.
To make their own decisions is so much more valuable.
It shows respect for their autonomy and their ability to navigate their own experience.
And sometimes that means stepping back a little bit.
Right, letting go.
Letting them lead, even if it means they might make mistakes along the way.
Because that's how we learn, right?
Exactly. It's about trusting their resilience and their strength.
And remembering that even though things might be different, the love and the connection are still there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how much wisdom can be found in sharing stories.
Oh, it's so powerful.
And Strength and Love does such a beautiful job of creating that space for people to feel seen, heard, and understood.
And they don't sugarcoat things either.
They don't.
They acknowledge that it's messy.
Yeah.
There are going to be ups and downs.
Moments of joy and moments of despair.
It's real life, right?
It is.
Yeah.
But even in those challenges, there's potential for growth, for connection, for understanding.
Love and resilience.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's a powerful message to hold on to, I think.
Absolutely. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about already.
Yeah.
So why don't we take a moment to reflect and come back for our final thoughts? Okay, so we're back, and I'm really stuck on this idea of finding strength and even growth when you're dealing with some pretty tough stuff.
It's not easy.
It's really not. And one of the big takeaways for me is that it's not just about enduring it.
Right.
It's about finding ways to adapt and evolve together.
And that adaptation,
Yeah.
it's not a one-time thing.
Oh, definitely not. It's ongoing.
Right. It's a process.
The Strength and Love podcast talked about that too, like how couples need to keep reassessing their needs and adjusting their approach.
Because things change.
Yeah, exactly. And that requires a lot of flexibility.
It does.
And a willingness to kind of let go of how we think things should be.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because there's no one right way to do this.
And that can be so freeing.
It can.
But also terrifying.
Yeah, because you have to figure it out as you go.
There's no roadmap.
And in a way, that's true for all relationships.
That's a good point.
Even without the added layer of illness or disability,
Yeah.
we're always changing as people, and our relationships have to change too.
So maybe this just kind of amplifies those dynamics.
Maybe.
It forces you to be more intentional, more communicative, more adaptable.
I think so.
Yeah.
And you know what really resonated with me from Strength and Love?
What's that?
Was that emphasis on finding joy and connection.
Even in the middle of everything.
Yeah, even when things are hard.
It's so easy to get bogged down.
Oh, totally.
In the day-to-day stuff.
The appointments, the medications.
All of it.
That we forget to have fun.
To laugh together.
Yeah, to just enjoy each other's company.
And it doesn't have to be anything big.
No, it's those little moments.
Like inside jokes.
Yeah.
Shared memories.
Just those little things that remind you.
And you're in this together.
Yeah, and that you're not just partners.
Your friends,
Yeah.
your confidants, your lovers.
And those parts of the relationship are important too.
They need attention.
And those moments of joy and connection,
Yeah.
they can be so healing.
Absolutely. Both for the person going through it
Yeah.
and for their partner.
It's a reminder that even when things are tough, life can still be good.
That's a powerful reminder.
It is.
And I think it speaks to how resilient we can be.
As humans.
Yeah. Our capacity to find hope and meaning no matter what.
And it shows the strength of love and connection.
That's so true.
How even in the hardest times, relationships can be that source of comfort.
Support inspiration.
Like they say, love conquers all.
Yeah.
Maybe not literally.
But it helps us through.
It really does.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm left feeling hopeful for all the couples and individuals out there who are facing these challenges.
Yeah, and for the resources like Strength and Love.
That offer support and guidance.
Absolutely. So if you're listening and you're on this journey, whether you're the one experiencing illness or disability,
or supporting a loved one.
you're not alone.
And even in these challenges,
there's potential for growth.
for resilience.
And for an even deeper understanding of what love can be.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
And on that note, that's a wrap for today. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.